Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into an absolutely wild collision between massive macro-level geopolitics and hyper-specific micro-level technology. We're taking a deep dive into the latest year-to-date headlines coming out of Washington and Ottawa, and we're going to see exactly how a high-stakes trade war over trash is literally being solved by Edge AI. Specifically, we're tracking the escalating situation with U.S. tariffs, the USMCA trade agreement, or CUSMA up in Canada, and the massive export of municipal solid waste, or MSW, from Ontario straight into Michigan landfills. It's a huge geopolitical gridlock, for sure, but the solution? It's sitting right inside a smartphone. Let's get into it.
To really grasp the sheer scale of this problem, we've got to start right here with this number, 3.46 million tons. Take a second to just let that sink in. I mean, that is the staggering annual volume of municipal solid waste exported from Ontario, Canada, and shipped directly across the border into U.S. Michigan landfills. Every single year. For decades now, this Ontario-Michigan waste corridor has basically acted as the primary pressure release valve for Canada's largest province.
To put that into perspective for you, that 3.46 million tons means this single transboundary waste corridor accounts for over 14% of absolutely everything buried in Michigan landfills. It's an enormous logistical pipeline. Ontario municipalities and commercial businesses rely on it heavily, mainly because, historically speaking, the cost to just dump it over the border has been incredibly cheap.
So here's the absolutely crucial question. What happens when geopolitical disputes abruptly freeze this essential cross-border pressure release drain, right? If you suddenly block millions of tons of trash from entering the U.S., Ontario isn't just looking at a mild price hike. Actually, scratch that, it's way worse. They are staring down an immediate, literal infrastructure crisis. The trash simply has nowhere to go.
Section 1. Tariffs and Trade Politics.
Zooming out to the macro level, we're watching a rapidly escalating situation driven by recent moves from Donald Trump's administration in Washington regarding the USMCA. Chronologically, based on the latest 2026 reporting, here's how it went down. On July 1st, 2026, the USMCA joint review failed, with the U.S. deciding not to renew the agreement in its current form. Then, just a few weeks later, on July 20th, President Trump signed proclamations under Section 338 of the Tariff Act. This imposed an aggressive 50% tariff on a broad range of Canadian goods, specifically targeting wood and paper products. And despite some really intense negotiations, these tariffs are locked in. The effective date is looming on August 19, 2026.
What's really fascinating here is that this waste corridor is actually slamming into two distinct walls simultaneously. At the federal level, you've got Washington's Section 338 tariff wall, slapping a massive 50% tax on materials like wood. But at the exact same time, down at the state level, Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer is pushing Senate Bill 246. This bill hikes the landfill tipping fee from a mere 36 cents all the way up to $5 per ton. The goal there is to actively discourage out-of-state dumping. Together, these two policies are systematically dismantling the entire economic foundation of the Ontario-Michigan waste disposal corridor.
Section 2. Ontario's Domestic Capacity Crisis.
Now let's shift our focus to the provincial level to see exactly how Ontario is getting trapped by these closing border walls. The reality on the ground is, well, it's stark. 9 years. According to industry tracking, that is the absolute maximum amount of time before the entire province of Ontario completely runs out of domestic landfill space. 0 space left. They are driving straight toward a capacity cliff. So if the U.S. border closes to garbage tomorrow, the province is facing an unprecedented emergency.
In an effort to secure some kind of domestic waste sovereignty, Ontario Premier Doug Ford's government enacted Bill 5. Now, this legislation is a really big deal because it allows the province to designate special economic zones. These zones entirely bypass standard municipal planning and those long, comprehensive environmental assessments. The stated goal here? Slash the red tape and fast-track critical infrastructure before those U.S. tariffs cause the whole system to collapse.
Which brings us to the highly controversial York 1 Dresden landfill project in southwestern Ontario. Using Bill 5, the province actually exempted a massive proposed expansion of this site from environmental assessments, purely to quickly create domestic capacity. A provincial official defended the move by pointing out, it's an existing site, not a brand new one. However, as you might expect, it's facing heavy, highly organized local opposition from the town of Dresden. The bottom line here is that macro geopolitical pressure at the border is directly forcing drastic and highly contested legislative actions right down at the local level.
Section 3. The Sentient Bridge Solution.
Okay, so we've seen the macro trade war, and we've seen the provincial panic. Now let's pivot the narrative all the way down to the micro level. Enter the 905 Wood Digital Refinery. They operate what they call a sentient bridge. To put it simply, they looked at this transboundary waste corridor and realized it isn't actually a logistical problem, it's a data classification problem. Think of it like a giant puzzle. If you can mathematically prove that this chaotic construction waste is actually clean, high-purity wood, well, it stops being trash and suddenly becomes a valuable biocarbon feedstock. It acts as the sentient bridge connecting chaotic waste to the high-purity requirements of the global circular bioeconomy.
And here is exactly why that classification matters so much. Those U.S. federal Section 338 tariffs specifically target standard wood products with a massive 50% tax. But if you can classify and officially certify that material as residual or waste feedstock, which falls under HS Code 3825.0, it gets to enter a protected, untaxed lane. The catch? A border auditor is absolutely not going to just take your word for it. You have to prove it, beyond a shadow of a doubt.
Section 4. Edge AI at the gate. So, how do you actually prove it? Well, you do it by deploying Edge AI at the very front gate of the supply chain. And honestly, this is incredible. It's not happening in some massive remote cloud server farm. Look at Layer 1 of the 905 Wood platform. The hardware is literally a Google Pixel 10 Pro running Android 16. It's using a Gemma-class vision model on the Light Art AI stack, and all of this is being processed directly on the phone's Tensor G5 chip. It can classify clean versus treated wood in under 500 milliseconds, completely offline, sitting right there in the cab of the truck at the collection bin without even needing a cell signal. I mean, wow.
This Edge AI operates a visual fallacy guard with a strict 85% confidence threshold. Its main job is to instantly detect toxic chemicals, like those nasty CCA pressure treatments that are so often hidden on weathered gray pine. It literally catches the contamination before the truck even moves, guaranteeing that only high-purity biocarbon makes it into the supply chain.
Section 5. The Document Workflow Firewall.
All right, so we have our clean wood sorted by AI. But, sorting alone isn't what gets you across a hostile international border. You need a rock-solid seamless UI/UX application workflow, and this is the legal centerpiece of the entire 905 Wood digital refinery operation. It's a simple four-step process. Step 1, it starts with a request for quote, or RFQ. Step 2, based on the AI scan, the system auto-generates a 9-point USMCA or CUSMA certificate of origin. Step 3 is an automated verification pass. And finally, Step 4 outputs the final compliance documentation.
During that critical Step 3 verification phase, the engine rigorously checks the AI's classification against strict chemical limits outlined in Ontario Regulation 347 Schedule 4. This ensures that chemicals like arsenic, lead, and chromium are well below toxic thresholds. If a load is rejected by the AI, boom, it is automatically autofiled directly to the Provincial Hazardous Waste Registry. It is 100% automated compliance.
Now for the clean loads that actually pass, the digital refinery's UI/UX output is this heavily encrypted PDF document. It freezes all the lineage data in place. We're talking the Vertex ML metadata, a cryptographic kernel hash, the exact GPS coordinates, and an immutable timestamp. It creates an undeniable, court-ready chain of custody. This isn't just data anymore, guys. It is literally legal armor.
Which brings us to this absolutely crucial realization. As they say, the AI's real job isn't sorting wood, it's notarizing it. This digital PDF output acts as an impenetrable legal firewall. It's a concept we call explainable compliance. So when a US tariff auditor stops that truck at the border, the driver doesn't try to give them a story, they just hand over a cryptographic passport proving the load belongs in the protected HS 3825.0 feedstock lane, completely, legally bypassing that 50% Section 338 tariff wall. And that leaves us with this final provocative thought. By operationalizing a Google Pixel 10 Pro and the Light Art AI stack, 905 Wood isn't just sorting trash, they are actively securing Ontario's industrial leadership in the global circular bioeconomy. As international borders continue to thicken with tariffs and trade disputes, will the ultimate winners be those who leverage Edge AI and explainable compliance to turn chaotic waste into certified valuable commodities? It is a fascinating reality where hyperlocal tech solves global gridlock. Well, that's all for this explainer. I really hope this deep dive helped you untangle exactly what's happening on the ground right now. Thanks so much for tuning in, and as always, keep learning.